Ever get that like gut feeling that just, leads you to make the right call even if you can't explain why?
Hmm.
Well, that's your subconscious mind at work, like this hidden powerhouse that influences us in ways we don't even realize.
Yeah.
So today we're taking a deep dive into that mysterious realm, exploring all the research and experiments that reveal just how much power our subconscious really has.
It is really amazing how this other part of our minds operates, kind of beneath the surface, shaping our thoughts, feelings, actions.
Exactly. And we've got like a stack of incredible studies to unpack. We're talking subliminal messaging, split brains, instances where blind people can react to things they shouldn't be able to see. By the end of this deep dive, you might just start questioning everything you thought you knew about your own mind.
Really is all about understanding that this subconscious part of our minds isn't some mystical force or anything. It's a real and measurable phenomenon, and it has a profound impact on our lives.
Okay, so before we jump into all the cool science, let's just like define what we're dealing with here. What exactly is the subconscious?
Well, you can think of it as like the vast behind-the-scenes operating system of your brain.
Okay.
It holds all your memories, habits, emotions, even those automatic functions like breathing. Unlike your conscious mind, which you actively use to think and make decisions, the subconscious works passively. It influences you in subtle and often surprising ways. That's an iceberg. What we consciously see is only a tiny fraction of what lies beneath.
So it's like learning and processing even when we're not like actively trying to?
Precisely.
That's incredible.
And the more we understand about this hidden world, the better equipped we are to harness its power.
Speaking of understanding the subconscious, we can't forget the pioneers who first ventured into this uncharted territory, Freud and Jung. So what were their main ideas about the subconscious?
Ah, yes. The classic showdown. Freud, with his theories of psychoanalysis, believed that the subconscious was this cauldron of repressed desires and fears, often stemming from childhood. He saw it as a driving force behind many of our behaviors, especially those we can't fully understand.
Interesting. So for Freud, the subconscious was like a hidden vault holding all these like potentially volatile emotions and memories.
Exactly. But Jung had a different take. He agreed that the subconscious was powerful, but believed it was more than just individual. He proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared pool of universal symbols and archetypes that connect us all.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with like archetypes. Could you just break that down for me a little bit?
Yeah, think about those common themes that you see across cultures in myths, stories, even dreams, like the hero, the trickster, the mother figure. Jung believed that these archetypes, these universal patterns of thought and behavior, reside in this collective unconscious, influencing our understanding of the world and ourselves.
So it's like this universal library of subconscious symbols that we all tap into, shaping our perceptions of the world.
Precisely.
That's
And
amazing.
it highlights just how interconnected we are, not just on a conscious level, but on a deeper subconscious level as well.
Okay, so we've got these two really intriguing theories about the subconscious, but how do we actually know it's doing all this stuff?
Right.
That's where the experiments come in.
Absolutely. And some of these experiments are so mind-boggling.
Okay.
They'll make you question everything you thought you knew about your own mind.
All right, bring on the mind-boggling. Let's start with subliminal messaging. Was
Yep.
that eat popcorn study really as powerful as everyone says?
Well, the original study where they flashed messages on a movie screen for milliseconds turned out to be a hoax.
Oh,
But, however, the idea that our subconscious can be influenced by stimuli we aren't consciously aware of is very real.
okay.
It's called priming.
So even if we don't consciously see something, our subconscious picks it up and can be swayed by it?
Uh-huh.
It's a little unsettling.
It is. There have been many subsequent studies showing that priming can affect our behavior, even if in subtle ways.
Hmm.
For example, if you're exposed to words related to elderly, you might walk slower afterward without even being aware of why you're doing so.
Wow, that's both fascinating and a bit creepy.
Right.
It makes you wonder, how much is our subconscious actually controlling without us knowing? Is there an experiment that kind of sheds more light on this?
There is. Let's look at the Iowa gambling task,
Okay.
an experiment that truly highlights the power of the subconscious in decision-making.
Right, tell me more about this gambling task. What did it reveal?
Well, participants played a card game where they had to choose from different decks. Some decks were rigged to be more advantageous over time, while others led to losses. What's fascinating is that the participants' bodies, specifically their sweat responses, showed signs of stress when reaching for the bad decks, even before their conscious minds realized those decks were riskier.
Hold on, so their bodies knew the decks were bad before their minds did.
Hmm.
That's like having a sixth sense.
In a way, yes. The key takeaway here is that our subconscious minds excel at picking up patterns and assessing risk, even when our conscious minds are still trying to figure things out. It's like having an internal radar system guiding us towards better choices, even if we don't consciously recognize the danger.
Okay, I'm officially convinced my subconscious is way smarter than I am. But wait, there's more. What about those split brain studies?
Right.
Those sound intense.
They are. These studies involve patients who had their corpus callosum severed,
Okay.
the bridge connecting the two hemispheres of the brain.
Uh-huh.
This meant that the two sides of their brain could not communicate with each other. What researchers found was that one hemisphere could perform actions or process information without the other side even knowing.
So it's like having two separate consciousnesses operating in one brain.
Precisely. It raises some profound questions about the nature of consciousness and control, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like our brain is a whole universe we haven't even begun to explore. And speaking of unexplored territories, you mentioned blind sight earlier. Does that mean what I think it means, seeing without actually seeing?
That's exactly what it is. Researchers were studying patients with damage to their visual cortex,
Okay.
the part of the brain that processes visual information. These patients were technically blind. However, when presented with visual stimuli, they could still guess correctly what they were seeing at a rate much higher than chance.
That's incredible. So their brains were still processing visual information even though they weren't consciously aware of it? It's like their subconscious was picking up the slack for their damaged visual centers?
Exactly. It's another powerful example of the subconscious at work. But if you thought blindsight was mind-bending, get ready for the Lebesgue experiment. This one really throws a wrench into our understanding of free will.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Lay it on me. What's the Lebesgue experiment all about?
In this experiment, participants were hooked up to brain monitoring equipment and simply asked to move their finger whenever they felt like it.
Okay.
They also had to note the exact moment they consciously decided to move.
Sounds simple enough, so what's the twist?
The twist is that the brain activity associated with the finger movement happened before the participants consciously decided to move.
You're telling me our brains make decisions before we even know we're making them?
Uh-huh.
That's incredibly unsettling. Does this mean we don't have free will after all?
It's a question that has puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries. While the Lebesgue experiment suggests that our conscious awareness might be more like an observer interpreting actions that our subconscious has already set in motion, there's still much debate about the implications for free will.
That's a lot to process. So we've got all this evidence that the subconscious is this powerful force influencing our actions and maybe even our decisions. But what does it all mean? How does this apply to our everyday lives?
That's the truly exciting part. Understanding the power of the subconscious can be incredibly beneficial in countless areas of our lives. We can use it to break bad habits, form new ones, improve our memory, even influence our physical health.
I'm ready to harness this power. But first, I think we all need a moment to digest all of this incredible information. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore even more practical applications and answer your burning questions. See you soon. Welcome back, fellow mind explorers. It's incredible to think that we've only just scratched the surface of this hidden world within our minds.
I know. And the more we learn, the more I'm convinced that understanding the subconscious is key to unlocking a whole new level of personal potential.
Right. I mean, the Lebesgue experiment alone was enough to send me down a rabbit hole of existential questions.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to focus on the positive here. You mentioned that there are ways we can use this knowledge to our advantage. So let's talk practical applications. You mentioned marketing, but what are some other ways that understanding the subconscious can help us in our everyday lives?
Well, let's start with something we all struggle with. Breaking bad habits.
Okay.
Remember, the subconscious is where habits are formed and ingrained. So if we want to change them, we need to work with our subconscious, not against it.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually do that?
Well, one powerful tool is visualization.
Okay.
By repeatedly visualizing yourself successfully performing a new habit, you're essentially programming your subconscious to accept this new behavior as the norm.
Like those athletes who visualize themselves winning a race or nailing a perfect shot.
Exactly. They're using the power of their subconscious to create a mental blueprint for success. And it's not just for athletes. You can use visualization to break any bad habit, whether it's overeating, procrastination, or even negative self-talk.
Oh, yeah. I used to be terrible at remembering to take my vitamins, and then I started visualizing myself swallowing the pill every morning while I was making coffee, and now it's just an automatic part of my routine.
That's a perfect example of how visualization can work. You're essentially training your subconscious to see this new habit as part of your identity.
So it's not just about willpower then, it's about consistency and creating this powerful mental image of the habit you want to adopt. What else can we do?
Repetition is key.
Okay.
The subconscious thrives on patterns and consistency. The more you repeat a new behavior, the more ingrained it becomes in your subconscious mind. Think about learning to drive a car. At first, every action was deliberate and conscious, but with practice, it becomes second nature, almost subconscious.
That's a great analogy. So it's about making the new behavior so automatic that it eventually requires less conscious effort. Got it. But what about learning in general? We talked about the subconscious processing information even when we're sleeping. Can we like hack that system to learn faster or remember things better?
Absolutely. There's a fascinating field of research called sleep learning, which explores how the subconscious continues to process information during sleep. While we're not talking about absorbing complex knowledge through osmosis, studies have shown that listening to language recordings or factual information while you sleep can enhance memory recall.
So I could basically learn French in my sleep.
Well, it's not quite that simple, but the idea is that your subconscious mind is still active during certain stages of sleep, and it can process and consolidate information you've been exposed to.
Yeah.
It's like giving your brain an overnight study session.
That's incredible. I'm definitely going to try that with my Spanish lessons. What else can we do to kind of optimize learning and memory through the subconscious?
Another powerful technique is spaced repetition.
Okay.
Instead of cramming all at once, space out your study sessions over time, revisiting the information at increasing intervals. This gives your subconscious mind time to process and retain the information more effectively.
So it's like giving our subconscious these little reminders to keep the information fresh and accessible.
Exactly. It's a much more efficient way to learn than trying to cram everything in at the last minute.
Yeah.
And speaking of efficiency, did you know your subconscious can help you be more productive too?
Okay, now I'm really interested. Tell me more. How can my subconscious help me get more done?
It all comes down to setting clear intentions.
Okay.
By clearly defining your goals and visualizing yourself achieving them, you're essentially programming your subconscious mind to prioritize those tasks and seek out opportunities to make progress. It's like setting a GPS for your mind. When you have a clear destination in mind, your subconscious helps you navigate the path to get there.
So if I visualize myself finishing that big project on time, my subconscious will like help me find ways to make it happen.
Precisely. You're aligning your conscious and subconscious minds toward a common goal, creating a powerful synergy that can lead to incredible results.
I love that analogy. It's
Yeah.
like giving my subconscious a mission and letting it work its magic. This is
Yeah.
all so empowering. It's like we have this incredible tool at our disposal, but most of us don't even know how to use it.
That's why it's so important to explore and understand the power of the subconscious. It's not about some mystical or esoteric practice. It's about using scientific principles to tap into the incredible potential of our own minds.
Well said. And speaking of potential, we've talked a lot about how the subconscious can help us achieve goals and break bad habits. But what about its role in creativity? Can we tap into the subconscious to kind of unlock our creative potential?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The subconscious is a wellspring of creative inspiration. Think about those aha moments you have when you're not even actively trying to solve a problem.
Right.
That's your subconscious mind working behind the scenes, making connections and generating new ideas.
So those moments of sudden insight are actually the result of our subconscious like working on a problem without us even realizing it. But how do we like encourage those aha moments? Do we just kind of have to wait for them to strike randomly?
Well, while there's no guaranteed formula, there are things you can do to kind of create the right conditions for those creative breakthroughs. One is to simply expose yourself to new experiences, ideas, and perspectives.
Okay.
The more diverse your input, the more material your subconscious has to work with.
So like reading different kinds of books, listening to different genres of music, even talking to people with different backgrounds and viewpoints.
Exactly. The more you expand your horizons, the more fertile ground you create for those creative insights to emerge. Another important factor is relaxation.
Okay.
When you're stressed or anxious, your subconscious mind is less likely to be in a creative mode. It's more focused on survival than innovation.
So taking breaks, getting enough sleep, practicing mindfulness, those are all important for like fostering creativity.
Absolutely. When you create space for your mind to wander and relax, You're giving your subconscious the freedom to make those unexpected connections that lead to creative breakthroughs.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling inspired. This is all so exciting and a little overwhelming, to be honest. But I'm also starting to feel a sense of responsibility. Like, now that I know about the power of my subconscious, I have a duty to use it wisely.
That's a great point. Understanding the subconscious is a powerful tool, but it's important to use it ethically and responsibly. But before we get too deep into that, let's talk more about the connection between the subconscious and physical health.
All right, let's do that. We know that stress and negative emotions can have a profound impact on our physical health. And while we can't always control the external stressors in our lives, we can learn to manage our internal responses. So how does the subconscious factor in?
It plays a huge role. We can actually use techniques like mindfulness meditation and even positive affirmations to influence our subconscious mind, creating a more balanced and resilient internal state.
So we're talking about using the power of the subconscious to reframe negative thoughts and cultivate a more positive mindset.
Exactly. By consciously choosing to focus on positive thoughts and beliefs, we can influence our subconscious mind to create a more balanced and resilient internal state, which can have a ripple effect on our physical health.
Wow. So it's not just about breaking bad habits or learning new skills, it's about cultivating a healthier and more fulfilling life overall.
Absolutely. Understanding the power of the subconscious opens up a world of possibilities for personal growth and transformation. It's about tapping into the incredible potential that already exists within each of us.
This is truly mind-blowing stuff. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface, but I'm already feeling so much more empowered and optimistic about the possibilities.
That's what it's all about, empowering yourself with knowledge and tools to create positive change in your life.
Well, listeners, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely feeling ready to take a deep dive into my own subconscious. But before we all rush off to start visualizing our dream lives, we'll be back for part 3, where we'll tackle some of your burning questions and explore even more ways to harness the power of the subconscious. Stay tuned. Welcome back, fellow explorers of the mind. We've been on quite a journey, delving into this fascinating world of the subconscious, from like mind-blowing experiments to, practical techniques for harnessing its power. We've really covered a lot of ground.
It's amazing to think about how much influence this hidden part of our minds has on our lives. And even after all we've discussed, I still feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
I know, right? It's like we've opened this Pandora's box of knowledge, and there's just so much more to explore. But speaking of exploring, we've received a ton of questions from listeners who are just as intrigued by this topic as we are.
I'm eager to dive into those questions.
Yeah.
It's always exciting to see what sparks people's curiosity when it comes to the subconscious.
Okay, let's jump right in. Our first question comes from Sarah in Seattle. She writes, I'm fascinated by the idea of subliminal messaging, but is it really as powerful as some people claim? Can I actually change my behavior or achieve my goals just by listening to subliminal recordings?
That's a great question, Sarah, and one that a lot of people wonder about. Subliminal messaging definitely has a certain mistake around it, but the reality is a bit more nuanced than the hype might suggest.
So listening to a subliminal recording while I sleep won't magically make me a millionaire or fluent in Italian.
I'm afraid not. While those subliminal messages can influence our thoughts and behaviors on a subconscious level, it's not a magic bullet for instant transformation. It's more about subtle influence than direct control.
So maybe it's more like planting seeds in the subconscious garden? We still need to do the work of watering and nurturing those seeds if we want them to grow.
That's a great analogy. Subliminal messaging works best when combined with conscious effort and intention. Think of it as a gentle nudge in the right direction rather than a forceful command.
Makes sense. Okay, our next question comes from Mark in Miami. Mark asks, if our subconscious minds are making decisions before we're even aware of them, as the Libet experiment suggests, does that mean we don't have free will?
Ah, the age-old question of free will. It's a fascinating and complex topic that has intrigued philosophers and scientists for centuries. The Libet experiment and other similar studies certainly challenge our traditional understanding of conscious decision-making.
It's definitely a head-scratcher. So where do we stand on the free will debate? Do we have it, or are we just puppets of our subconscious?
Well, neuroscience is a relatively young field, and we're constantly learning more about how the brain works. While the Libet experiment suggests our conscious awareness might be more like an observer interpreting actions, our subconscious has already set in motion. There's still much debate about the implications for free will.
So it's not a simple yes or no answer.
Exactly. It's likely a complex interplay of factors, including our genetics environment, past experiences, and yes, our subconscious, all shaping our choices.
Sounds like the jury's still out on free will. I think I can live with that. Definitely keeps things interesting. All right, let's move on to our next question, which comes from Maria in Madrid. Maria writes, I'm really intrigued by the connection between the subconscious and physical health. Can you give some specific examples of how I can use the power of my subconscious to improve my well-being?
Absolutely, Maria. This is an area that holds a lot of potential. One simple yet powerful technique is practicing positive affirmations. By consciously repeating positive statements about yourself and your health, you can gradually shift those subconscious beliefs and create a more positive internal environment.
So instead of saying, I'm always getting sick, I could say, I'm healthy and strong.
Exactly.
Mm.
It might feel a bit awkward at first, but remember, the subconscious mind thrives on repetition. The more you expose it to positive messages, the more it starts to accept those messages as truth.
It's like rewiring your brain for better health.
Mm-hmm.
What other techniques can we use?
Visualization is another powerful tool. Imagine yourself feeling healthy, energetic, and vibrant. Engage all your senses. See yourself glowing with health. Feel the energy coursing through your body. Even smell the fresh air as you take a deep breath.
It's almost like creating a movie in your mind where you're the star of your own health journey. What else can we do?
Another helpful practice is mindfulness meditation.
Oh, okay.
By focusing on the present moment and observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment, you can cultivate a sense of calm and clarity. This allows your subconscious to relax and reset.
So it's about quieting that mental chatter and creating space for healing and rejuvenation.
Precisely. Mindfulness allows you to step back from the constant stream of thoughts and emotions that can contribute to stress and anxiety, giving your subconscious mind a chance to recharge and focus on promoting well-being.
These are all fantastic tips. I think we have time for one more question before we wrap things up. This one comes from David in Denver. David writes, I'm a writer, and I'm always looking for ways to tap into my creativity. What are some specific techniques I can use to unlock my subconscious potential and come up with fresh ideas?
That's a great question, David, and one I can relate to. One technique that's incredibly helpful for writers is free writing.
Okay.
Set a timer for 10-15 minutes and just write whatever comes to mind without censoring or editing yourself.
So it's like a brain dump, but with words.
Exactly. Don't worry about making sense or sounding eloquent. Just let the ideas flow freely onto the page. You might be surprised at the gems that emerge from your subconscious when you give it the freedom to express itself without judgment.
I love that. What other techniques can writers or like anyone looking to boost their creativity use?
Another powerful technique is to engage in activities that stimulate your senses and spark your imagination. Go for a walk in nature, visit a museum, listen to inspiring music, or simply spend time daydreaming.
So it's about feeding our subconscious a rich and diverse diet of sensory experiences to inspire new ideas and connections.
Precisely. The more you expose yourself to new and interesting things, the more material your subconscious has to work with when generating those aha moments of creative insight.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. It feels like we've just scratched the surface of this vast and powerful realm within our minds.
I agree. It's been a privilege to share this journey of discovery with you and our listeners.
Well, dear listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the subconscious, but this is just the beginning of your own exploration. Remember, the power to unlock your potential lies within you. Embrace the mystery experiment with different techniques, and most importantly, trust the incredible wisdom of your own subconscious mind.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep unlocking the amazing potential that lies within each and every one of you.
And remember, the subconscious is always listening, so choose your thoughts and beliefs wisely.